the Connecticut State Police Western District Major Crime Squad was requested to look into the investigation of the disappearance of Jennifer Dulos.
She was the most incredible mom. Very loyal, a very good person.
It was highly out of order for her not to be in contact with her kids.
We all knew that something was terribly wrong.
It's a missing person case that evolved into a criminal investigation.
We may never know what happened to Jennifer Dulos. He also had a female companion with him. She's the fall person now that he is gone.
Can I just cut to the chase here? Do you know where she is, and can you please tell us? We need to find Jennifer.
Connecticut's Gold Coast. It's just 1 hour northeast of New York City, and lined with parks full of lush greenery, multi-million-dollar mansions of wealthy business executives, and old family money. Just 15 minutes from the capital city of Hartford is Farmington, Connecticut, the upscale enclave where Jennifer and Fotis Dulos live with their 5 children.
Jennifer always wanted to have a family. She loved the idea of living in a beautiful suburb somewhere with a green lawn, and she would even have joked about a white picket fence. The life in Connecticut was very much part of that vision, and I think she felt really ecstatic that what she'd envisioned for herself and her hypothetical kids and family had actually become a reality. They had met back at Boston College when she was in school and he was also in school. He was born in Turkey and he was raised in Greece, but he had come to the United States, getting his education, going on to get his master's degree. She did graduate from Boston College and then went on for her master's degree in New York City at NYU. I met Jennifer in the fall of 1990. We were both incoming graduate students in the graduate dramatic writing program at NYU. Jennifer and I just connected, I think first just over our mutual senses of humor. We shared a love of literature.
Literature and writing were Jennifer Dulos' first loves, until she crossed paths with Fotis Dulos again years later, and the couple married and started a family.
I think that was an aspect of re-meeting Fotis, entering a relationship with him that was so incredibly exciting for her. A lot of people who were quite close to Jennifer found the speed of her relationship with Fotis, the speed with which they got married, just out of character for her, because she was always a very measured person. Once they married, they had 5 children altogether, 2 sets of twins. And although she was an exquisite writer, she really devoted herself to her children, her beautiful family. She was periodically working on some pieces, a blog on the Patch platform, but obviously raising 5 kids is incredibly all-consuming. I think she had to put the sense of her daily mission as a writer to the side.
In 2004, Fotis Dulos founded a custom home building company, 4 Group.
They would purchase properties in the Connecticut area, fix them up, and resell them. Jennifer Dulos came from a family of great wealth. Her father was a very successful banker. Her mom is Gloria and her dad is Hilliard Hill. And Hill and Gloria clearly wanted to support Jennifer in her relationship. They took at face value, Fotis's professions of love and commitment to Jennifer and to them, and so wanted to support him in his ventures because, they viewed them as Jennifer's ventures as well. It seemed as though everything was really almost magically falling into place.
But the Dulos relationship was anything but. A 13-year storybook marriage.
I think that there was always an unhealthy dynamic at play in their relationship where he was the one in control. And because Jennifer was resilient and also very concerned with maintaining a low conflict, pleasant environment for her kids, that she ended up bearing the brunt of whatever it was he needed to get off his chest. She learned how to think around corners and how to walk on eggshells. That said, I think the fear is always there because sometimes you can't predict what's going to set somebody off.
Fotis Doulos spent years as a competitive professional water skier and placed several of their children in the sport as well. He eventually met another competitive skier, a single mom named Michelle Troconis.
Michelle Troconis was from South America. She had graduated from the university in Venezuela, and then she had gone on to be an entrepreneur herself. She had a daughter from a prior relationship, but she ultimately came to the United States and on the East Coast.
They met at an event in the Miami area where the kids were going water skiing, and Michelle was either also competing or she was officiating.
Jennifer Doulos finds out Fotis Doulos and Michelle Troconis have begun an affair.
I think that she may have intuited that his emotional energies were being directed elsewhere.
According to not only Michelle, but her entire family, the members that lived in Miami who also met him, he told them that he was going through a divorce and that it was amicable.
I guess officially Jennifer learned about the long-time affair in March of 2017, and then about a month later she got some more details, and for her that kind of betrayal certainly was a deal breaker. Jennifer proposed that they separate and that they get a divorce, and Fotis did not want to agree to that. That's when she knew that she had to develop a safe plan, because it was clear to her that he was not receptive to a sort of mutually agreed upon plan to separate and divorce. He was not going to agree to that.
Jennifer secretly moved out with the children.
She specifically chose New Canaan so that she wasn't taking the kids out of state.
There was a time when the children were going back and forth between Farmington and New Canaan, and at some point, Fotis invited Michelle to move up with her daughter.
The estranged couple began a lengthy court battle and a fight for custody of their children, which reveal allegations by Jennifer Doulos of abuse.
A story of emotional abuse, a story of fear, a story of abuse toward the children emotionally.
There were a few different instances of Fotis's acting in ways that really frightened Jennifer. Also, in this period of a couple months, he acquired a gun. Jennifer and Fotis had discussed before they ever had children that they were never going to have a gun in the household.
In court documents, Jennifer alleged she's afraid of her estranged husband, scared that divorcing him will enrage him, and cause him to, quote, harm me in some way.
I can say confidently that we were all very frightened on her behalf and on behalf of the kids. Fotis had threatened a few times to leave her and take the kids.
Fotis Doulos filed court motions of his own in which he denied the allegations of abuse, threats, or that he bought an illegal handgun. He also accused Jennifer of taking the kids and leaving the family home without warning.
I can certainly say that in no way did he try to make this amicable. He was obstructionist every step of the way.
It's a 2-year court battle, and Jennifer ultimately retains sole physical custody of their children, ages 8 to 13.
Fotis disregarded court orders from the get-go, and that's why he lost custody of the children.
I just want to say that I love my children. I miss them. I think about them all the time. That's all.
He was not allowed even supervised visitation for more than a year, and that was all through his own behavior.
But in May of 2019, everything changes.
It was to be a seemingly normal day for Jennifer Dulos. As a very devoted mother, priority were her children, and so she took them to school in the morning. It was about 8 o'clock. And from that point on, she was going to come to New York City for some doctor's appointments. She never made it to those doctor's appointments.
It was highly out of order for her not to be in contact with just certain people in her life, and specifically her kids, and she missed appointments out of the area, and she was just not able to be connected with.
On May 24th, I received a text from Jennifer's babysitter, Lauren, asking whether I had heard from Jennifer that day. And I hadn't, but just even the tone of Lauren's outreach gave me the feeling that something was wrong. So immediately I texted both numbers I had of Jennifer's. She had 2 phones. And I didn't hear back from her. I left her messages. I didn't hear back. And I, now know that at the same time there were at least 4 of us trying to reach her, and nobody could.
Right around 7 p.m. that evening, we got a call our dispatch center about some concerns people acquainted with her had about her not being available or able to connect with her. Subsequently, we started an investigation. We dispatched our patrol officers. They went to her house. At some point, as they were digging in and looking around, trying to find evidence that she might be there or where she might have gone, they saw some things in the garage. The investigator highlighted in that when he arrived that were very suspicious.
Authorities put out a statewide alert.
Sometime late in the evening, a Farmington, Connecticut police officer came to the door at Jefferson Crossing and told Fotis Dulos that his wife was reported missing.
Back at Jennifer's home, police find evidence that the mother of 5's disappearance could be more than just a missing persons case.
They went into the garage and they were shocked at what they found.
And just 3 miles from her home, police make another shocking discovery.
I think all the investigators realized that was a critical part of the investigation.
An alert goes out in Connecticut for missing mother of 5, Jennifer Dulos. Police search her New Canaan home.
There's a 3-bay garage. The left bay was empty, and we learned later that's where typically Jennifer would park her car. The middle bay, a Range Rover was parked there, and the other bay just had storage and some other things in it.
They went into the garage and they were shocked at what they found, because they found a substance on the floor of that garage that they believed was blood.
I actually responded to the scene. I saw the same things they did, and it was evidence of some kind of cleanup in the garage. There was some splatter on the vehicle, which was suspicious, and some other little indicators in the garage that kind of raised everybody's awareness, led me to believe that we had something significantly more than merely a missing person.
Just 3 miles from Jennifer's New Canaan home, police make another key discovery in their search.
Not only was Jennifer Dulos missing, but her vehicle, her 2017 black Chevy Suburban that she had taken her children to school in on that very morning, was missing.
They found it about an hour after she was reported missing near one of our large parks called Waveney Park. It was parked on a road that parallels the park.
It had been abandoned. There appeared to be what they thought was blood in and on that vehicle.
It was found in a condition where the gear shift lever was in reverse and some lights were left on in the vehicle, which seemed unusual. It seemed like whoever was driving the vehicle was in a hurry and wasn't as careful or thoughtful as normally someone is when they park their vehicle.
Law enforcement find blood evidence at Jennifer's home and her missing Chevy Suburban. But the question remains, where is Jennifer?
I think those all culminated to the point where everybody realized that she was truly missing, and that's why that kind of elevated to a criminal investigation.
The fact that Lauren wasn't able to reach her, and then as we quickly learned that she had missed 2 doctor's appointments, was completely out of character. That was more than enough information that something had gone terribly wrong.
The New Canaan Police Department had contacted Fotis Dulos to tell him and apprise him that his estranged wife Jennifer was missing. They asked him to come down to the police station. So he did.
Given the facts and circumstances of what we started determining early on, I'd say he was at the top of the list of a person that needed to be vetted.
He went to the New Canaan Police Department along with his attorney, and he had his cell phone with him.
He agreed to come early in the morning on the 25th, was late several hours, ultimately showed up with an attorney. At some point of the interaction became uncooperative.
His attorney said that Mr. Dulos would not be helping them at all in their missing persons investigation. He would not be giving a statement. So almost as soon as he and his attorney arrived, they left the police department. And from every document that has come out from the investigation, Fotis Dulos never helped the investigation as to what happened to his missing wife.
He just didn't give us the level of cooperativeness that you would expect.
But he did give police one great gift. They asked him if they could have his cell phone, and he said yes. And then they asked him for the password to get into it, and he actually did give it to them.
In this case, it was seized because it was certainly evidentiary, and then subsequently a search warrant was signed off by a judge. That was allowed us to search the phone.
And they found out that the night that Jennifer had gone missing, that Fotis Dulos' phone was in the vicinity of Hartford, Connecticut on Albany Avenue.
Which leads Hartford police to begin pulling hours of local surveillance video.
They saw a black pickup matching the description of Fotis' vehicle, with a male coming out with black trash bags, depositing trash bags in the trash receptacles, one after the other.
But the surveillance video also shows Fotis Dulos is not alone.
He also had a female companion with him.
Residents of Connecticut's wealthy towns, New Canaan and Farmington, are stunned at the news a mother of 5 has gone missing.
It was highly out of order for her not to be in contact with certain people in her life, and specifically her kids.
According to court documents, residential security cameras have captured Jennifer's Chevy Suburban heading eastbound towards her home after dropping off her children, ages 8 to 13, at school. Cell phone evidence and surveillance video place Fotis Dulos in Hartford, Connecticut on the evening of May 24th. He's driving a 2014 Ford F-150 Raptor, a truck registered to his company, the Ford Group. And he's not alone.
He also had a female companion with him that later matched the description of Dulos' girlfriend, Michelle Troconis.
Dulos is captured on surveillance cameras dumping several black garbage bags at various trash bins all along Albany Avenue.
And I think that became apparent pretty early, specifically when the video was gathered from Hartford and it showed Fotis and Michelle in the vehicle leaving garbage bags.
She does not get out of that cab. And he takes a couple of black trash bags, puts them into a receptacle, And as everyone has now seen on video, he takes a rolled up, looks like a carpet, it could be a rear cargo cover, I don't know, and he sticks it next to a building and then continues on.
There was also a point where they saw that this man, who at that point even matched the description of Fotis Dulos, get out of the pickup with a box. He opened a storm drain, put the box in it, and closed it back up.
Surveillance video and the search for the mystery trash bags lead police to stunning new evidence.
All the little pieces started getting put together by way of technology and video evidence.
Police were able to go back to that scene immediately and get those trash bags. And what they found in those bags...
It's a discovery that begins to paint a grim picture. A normal day of morning school drop-off and doctor's appointments becomes anything but routine when mother of five Jennifer Dulos vanishes.
Very quickly, we all knew that something was terribly wrong.
Once the major crime squad arrived, they started processing and analyzing what was there at the house, and that ultimately culminated into a long, complex investigation.
Surveillance video and dumpster searches provide key leads to investigators.
Police were able to go back to that scene immediately and get those trash bags. And what they found in those bags: clothes, a sponge.
According to a police affidavit, detectives also find plastic zip ties, undergarments, household items, trash, and a suspicious substance.
But more than anything, they found what they believed was blood. It was forensically examined. It was determined to be the blood of Jennifer Dulos. And as far as that storm drain, they went into that storm drain. They found a FedEx box. It was opened. There were 2 license plates in it that had been altered with tape. But they determined that those license plates had belonged to previous vehicles of Fotis Dulos.
Just 2 hours and 20 minutes after the last known image of Jennifer Dulos, surveillance images show her Chevy Suburban leaving her residence at 10:25 a.m. According to police, cell phone data shows her phone moving from her house to the park where her SUV is found abandoned. Surveillance video also captures another vehicle, a red 2001 Toyota Tacoma belonging to one of Fotis Dulos' employees.
The project manager would bring his own truck to the business, which was in a home, and he would leave it there, and he would take one of the business vehicles to the job site to work on the homes, and he would leave his keys at the business. That allowed those keys and the vehicle of the property manager to virtually be used by anyone. But the property manager had an alibi. He was at a home working on it that day. He wasn't in his own truck.
According to a police affidavit, the Tacoma is seen driving between the hours of 6:36 a.m. and 7:03 a.m. along Connecticut's Merritt Parkway. By 7:40 a.m., the truck is stopped near the same park where Jennifer's SUV is found.
It was determined that it was that vehicle, the vehicle of the property manager, that was used to drive to the outskirts of Jennifer Dulos' home.
At 11:12 a.m., the Toyota shows up on surveillance again, driving until 12:22 p.m., when it arrives at a massive residential property, a 10,000 square foot mansion on Mountain Spring Road, being renovated and sold by the Ford Group. In several voluntary interviews with detectives, the project manager said Fotis Dulos tried to offer him a different vehicle to drive home.
When Fotis Dulos handed him the keys, and he told him, look, we can keep it, you go home in the project vehicle, he said, no, I want my own vehicle.
On the morning of May 29th, police say surveillance video shows Fotis Dulos pull into Russell Speeder's car wash, driving the Toyota Tacoma. And inside, he fills out a log sheet to have that truck cleaned. According to a police affidavit, phone records place girlfriend Michelle Troconis in the area of Russell Speeder's parking lot in Avon, Connecticut.
She didn't go to any car wash to wash a Jeep.
Michelle Troconis followed behind in another vehicle, and surveillance video shows this.
He went, and she picked him up, and they went right to her lawyer's office, literally right from the Avon car wash.
More than 5 hours later, the couple returns and Fotis goes inside and pays $250 cash. Back at the Ford Group office, the project manager walked up to his Tacoma truck to find it professionally washed and detailed. The project manager also tells detectives about a conversation involving car seats.
But Fotis Dulos said to him, you need to get rid of those front seats you have. Get rid of them. Throw them away and get rid of them. I've got some Porsche seats. You can put those in. He said, what's up with my vehicle? Why are you saying this? And Dulos gave him a very strange answer, he told police. He said that on Mother's Day, that he was around, Jennifer gave her a hug, and he thinks one of his hairs landed on her, and he was concerned. So just get rid of the seats in the car. But the project manager said, I kept the seats. I kept the original seats that were in the car.
It's also revealed to police cleaning was taking place at the Mountain Spring mansion owned by Ford Group the day Jennifer Dulos goes missing.
There was a showing the next day. That's been confirmed through a realtor that a couple that wanted to buy one of the properties on Mountain Spring Road and were coming the next morning wanted to see what kind of work that Fotis Dulos did. So it was more a matter of just doing a little dusting, cleaning up. He basically enlisted Michelle, come on over, bring some supplies from the house so that it'll look nice. And he was outside, she was inside cleaning up a few items. It's not like she was cleaning an entire house. I mean, even the Mountain Spring house is pretty large.
According to a police affidavit, there was another cleanup at the Mountain Spring property, inside the Toyota Tacoma.
Michelle Troconis was there, and he gave her a rag or a paper towel that he had been using to clean the seats and had her put it in a black trash bag. She asked him what it was, or he told her that he was cleaning up some coffee. Investigators said, did it smell like coffee? And she said, no, it didn't smell like coffee. And she said, I wasn't cleaning Jennifer. The police took those seats, had them processed with a warrant, and lo and behold, they found blood confirmed to be Jennifer Dulos.
A slew of forensic evidence leads investigators to seek arrest warrants. And police interrogation video blows the case wide open.
So if you know stuff that you're not telling us, that's the man you're protecting, because that's some sick shit.
Just 8 days after Connecticut mother of 5 Jennifer Dulos goes missing, police arrest estranged husband Fotis Dulos and his girlfriend Michelle Troconis. Charged with tampering and hindering prosecution, they both pleaded not guilty.
They arrested her late at night, drove her down to New Canaan when the allegation against her was that she was accused of helping to get rid of bags in Hartford.
According to police, after several failed attempts to interview her, Michelle Troconis sits down with investigators while she's in custody.
So she wasn't missing in action. She was not refusing to cooperate. She was told to have everything go through the lawyers, which is hopefully what anyone would do. And of course, when she was brought in by the police on the night of June 1st, she did cooperate with them
Can I just cut to the chase here? Do you know where she is, and can you please tell us, or at least lead us in the right direction on it?
I don't know, but
And then we can worry about the other stuff later, because right now we need to find Jennifer.
Okay, I don't know.
Let me ask you a very simple question. What do you think happened to Jennifer Dulos?
For what you said, you guys. Okay, what I know, and I've seen in the newspaper that she got
No.
in the garage.
No. They're asking you for only your knowledge. Not what you read in the newspaper, not what you think
Well, I think that she's still somewhere, I hope, hiding. Pero bueno, you guys said that you find blood.
Police say Troconis' story changed in 3 separate interviews between June 2nd and August 13th, according to an arrest warrant application.
Being honest with you, I'm having a real hard time believing that you don't know what's going on here.
I didn't know what's going on, and up to now, I didn't see anything.
There's aspects of language barrier here. At various times, it's pretty clear she doesn't understand words that are being tossed at her. At one point, she did ask for a Spanish interpreter, and she wasn't given one.
The morning Jennifer Dulos goes missing, Troconis can't pin down Fotis Dulos' whereabouts, but explains how she ends up on surveillance video as Fotis Dulos dumps multiple trash bags.
Michelle told the police, without question, that Fotis that late at the afternoon asked if she wanted to go to Starbucks. She's texting. She notes that they've gone about a mile or so past the Starbucks, and he says, I just have to take care of something here. And she asks, what are we doing here? He says, oh, that's all right. I just have to get rid of a few items here. She's in the cab of the truck. She does not get out of that cab. And he takes a couple of black trash bags, puts them into a receptacle. She thought it was leftover cleaning supplies contractor mess from the house that had just been completed and was being shown the next day. So from that perspective, it did not seem that odd to her. But she told the police about it. She told them about it. It was not a secret.
Police also find what they describe as the alibi script at the couple's residence, a handwritten timeline.
She had been told by the divorce lawyer for Dulos that she and Fotis Dulos needed to keep track of where they were on the date of May 24th because they were going to be asked about that.
Police say the timelines are missing any mentions of trash being dumped in Hartford. As for the cleaning at the Mountain Spring Mansion and the Toyota Tacoma.
So this is property that you and Fotis have bid on, but are you saying that you have no specific knowledge that Jennifer Dulos' body is in here? You don't know?
I mean, I can tell you where we ride motor, but
Let me
I never
ask
saw Fotis.
Why would Fotis be washing the Tacoma, do you think, if you have any idea?
Obviously, all the evidence is because, and you showed me the picture of the blood in that door, it's because the body of Jennifer at some point was in there.
Shortly after their arrests on tampering charges, Michelle Troconis and Fotis Dulos are released on bond.
Michelle, where's Jennifer?
Fotis, what happened to Jennifer? What were you doing in Hartford dumping off all that trash?
By August of 2019, any hope of Jennifer being found alive has begun to fade. Police make a third arrest in the Jennifer Dulos investigation, and an emergency call will change the case forever. The evidence points to a tragic end for missing mom, Jennifer Dulos, who by all forensic accounts has been the victim of homicide and suffered an injury non-survivable without medical intervention.
It's kind of rare to see a case like this where truly it's a missing person case that evolved into a criminal investigation and, ultimately a murder investigation.
Fotis Dulos is facing charges of murder, felony murder, and kidnapping. and his girlfriend, Michelle Troconis, is facing a charge of conspiracy to commit murder.
They were piecing together the timeline. They were putting together who they believed was responsible for the violent assault on Jennifer Dulos.
On the morning of Jennifer's disappearance, police place another person at the Four Group's office between 7:29 a.m. and 8:22 a.m. Kent Mawhinney is a friend and attorney for Fotis Dulos. Court and phone records reveal Dulos makes a call to Mawhinney's phone as surveillance video captures him dumping trash bags around Hartford. According to a criminal complaint, police say Mawhinney changed his story to investigators about his whereabouts and communications on the day Jennifer goes missing.
He still claims that he fell down a flight of stairs, broke his phone, and has amnesia.
Arrest warrants also show Mawhinney's name appears on handwritten timelines. On January 7th, 2020, Kent Mawhinney is arrested.
He frankly and openly told the police he was making this statement so he could get out of jail. And at that point, while denying any liability on his own part, implicated Michelle and Fotis in a plan to do away with Jennifer Dulos. Doesn't know any details, claims he had nothing to do with it, claims that he talked Fotis Dulos out of it, and was surprised to find out that Jennifer had actually disappeared.
Major crime detectives were able to get enough evidence to effect the arrests of three following individuals. Fotis Dulos, who is charged with murder, felony murder, and kidnapping, with the court-set bond of $6 million. Michelle Troconis, charged with conspiracy to commit murder, with a court-set bond of $2 million. Kent Mawhinney, charged with conspiracy to commit murder, also with a court-set bond of $2 million.
Mawhinney pleaded not guilty. 2 days later, Fotis Dulos and Michelle Troconis are released from jail on bond. Dulos moves back into the Farmington, Connecticut mansion and on to a new girlfriend, Anna Curry.
There was actually a court hearing, and he was supposed to be there.
Just hours from potentially having his $6 million bond revoked on a violation order, EMTs and Farmington police received an emergency call. They rushed to Dulos' home to find him unconscious in his SUV.
I remember the helicopters started flying over the home, wondering what was going on, and all of a sudden, we hear that he is in cardiac arrest, that there is an issue with Fotis Dulos at his home in Connecticut.
Fotis Dulos was declared dead tonight at 5:32.
Fotis Dulos had taken his own life.
It was later found that Fotis Dulos had left a suicide note. And in that note, he said that he had nothing to do with the disappearance of his wife.
In the note, released by his attorney, Dulos wrote Michelle Troconis had nothing to do with Jennifer's disappearance. He also said, quote, "The state will not rest until I rot in jail." With Fotis Dulos gone, there are now two co-defendants left to answer for the presumed murder of Jennifer Dulos.
Michelle Troconis is now awaiting trial, and she has several charges, including conspiracy to commit murder. Her attorney continues to say that she knows nothing, that she was kept in the dark, that Fotis was the one that knew what was happening, and she just aimlessly sort of followed along with him, and that she's the fall person now that he is gone.
When someone is left holding the bag, it means that the person they want is gone, and there is the person standing there they didn't really want, but that's all they have right now.
I think everybody should realize, there's lots of victims in this case, and Jennifer's loved ones, her children, her family members, and they're all grieving.
Jennifer wanted to make everybody feel special. She wanted to make sure that the other people around her felt welcome and at home, and were they doing okay? She was the most incredible mom, and she loved her kids beyond compare. I mean, she was the most thoughtful friend you could have ever hoped to have. I'd want them to know that she was the kind of friend you'd get thrown out of a movie theater for laughing too loudly with. That's the kind of friend she was. There won't ever be any true justice for Jennifer because she's not here. We'd like to see the individuals responsible held accountable. I think in a larger sense, she's not here to see her kids grow up. And I think that's the biggest injustice of all.
No one's going to give up hope, and we'll continue searching to finding Jennifer's body so we can give some kind of closure to her family.
They found the house fully engulfed.
We thought she just died in the fire.
As soon as the 4 o'clock news came on, everybody's phone just started blowing up.
Everyone was looking at each other like, you did this, you did this, who did this?
This case is so fascinating, full of mystery.
Shock, anger.
This was not a stranger.
Lacombe is small town America.
The bedroom community to New Orleans.
A lot of people already have a mindset of what New Orleans is like, and Lacombe couldn't be more the opposite.
It's very rural, isolated.
A lot of fishing and crabbing and shrimping and, all that kind of outdoor stuff.
Located on the north shore of Lake Pontchartrain is the small town of Lacombe, Louisiana, home to St. Tammany Parish District 12 Fire Chief Steve Crennel and his wife of 22 years, Nanette.
My name is Kim Watson, and Nanette was my older sister. Nanette was the sweetest person. She was able to make friends with anybody she met, instantly. Huge group of friends from Chappelle High, where she went to school.
We went to high school together. My name is Lori Rando, and Nanette and I were best friends.
Nanette loved life. She was very outgoing, outspoken.
She was also kind of feisty.
She had an infectious laugh.
She enjoyed helping other people.
I guess like any guy, the first thing that struck me about her was her looks. I mean, she's a beautiful woman.
He ran a dive shop, and she went in and got a job there. That's where they met initially.
Stephen Crennel's very open at the fact that when he met this stunning woman, Nanette, he was married.
I was married at the time. It was several months after she came to work for me before anything turned into a relationship.
Months passed, the relationship grew. He got out of that marriage and ended up being with her.
They got married September 11th of 1995, and they seemed very happy.
He came across as this really upstanding guy, as this firefighter who, obviously cares about the community.
So I knew shortly after I started working at the fire department that I wanted to be the fire chief one day. I believe May 1st of 17, when, if my memory serves me, when I was actually promoted to the position of fire chief.
As Steve Krennel reached the top of his career, his wife Nanette was stepping away from hers.
She retired in 2016 from being a preschool teacher.
She put 100% of her heart and soul into her job and her career.
Most of the children that she worked with were experiencing some kinds of difficulties, either at home, in school, or in the community. It was a great joy to her to be able to go in and help parents with their kids.
The kids adored her.
Well, Nanette could not have children, and so she was very, very attached to her pets. She had a little Chihuahua named Harley, and she had 2 cats.
Baby Kitty and Smokey, those 3 pets were like her children, and she loved them. That's what gave her joy, especially when she retired from being a teacher.
She was just very protective of animal life.
In fact, the surveillance cameras around their property, according to her husband, were kind of initially set up so they could watch wildlife.
The original couple cameras that we bought were actually outside looking at the deer feeders and looking at the things like that.
She loved to watch, and if she saw an animal out there and it's just like, oh, there's a deer out there, we got to go get some deer food.
They lived in a 3,000 square foot home, single story, on about 100 wooded acres on Philip Smith Road. It was very remote. It's just kind of out in the middle of nowhere. Steve and his father built this house on this property, and they did it with their own 2 hands. And, she was obviously extremely proud of that and of him.
Everything seemed to be going perfect. My career was at the top of where it could be. I could only see positive things.
When I first went onto the property, you come to this gate, and I believe there was 1 security camera.
They lived at the dead end of the street.
Their house was in a very remote area. It was behind a gate, back there with only 2 houses.
It's just a massive piece of property, and you have to drive so much further, and the first thing you see is the carport, the garage, before you even get to the home.
You would have to know that it was there. You could not see it from the road. You would have no idea that it was back there. At night, with no street lights, it would have been really terrifying to me.
Friends and family members say they began to notice the isolation and remote location of the Krennel home was also starting to frighten Nanette.
They had 9 surveillance cameras, partly because she had fears about somebody being out to get her.
There were things happening to her that scared her. She had told me she was being followed, so the cameras were there because Nan felt she needed protection.
In June 2017, she had mentioned to me that she was upset, and she said, if he doesn't start protecting me, then I'm going to kick him out. She had mentioned divorce to my dad on the phone, and so their relationship was becoming more and more strained.
One of her texts to her family said she had a gun in her purse. She had a gun in every room of the house, in her nightstand, in her car. In the back of the property, there is like a creek that runs in the back, and they have glass bottles set up kind of over the creek.
Sort of a small shooting range. It was one of their hobbies.
She practiced very regularly shooting those guns. It wasn't like she just had them. She knew how to use them. She did seem to have a generalized fear that someone was out to get her, and it prompted her to arm herself. She was armed to the teeth.
She would say, "I feel safe if I'm home and have my guns and the cameras."
It would not be an exaggeration to say that she became reclusive. She would just basically keep in touch with friends and family via text and phone call.
When I spoke to some of her family members and some of her friends, they did express to me that she was nervous and that she thought somebody was watching her.
About 2:30 that afternoon, they received a 911 call of smoke from the property.
I was in the middle of a meeting. My cell phone rang, and I answered the phone, and he said something about my house being on fire.
Firefighters were on the scene by 3, and they found the house fully engulfed.
So it was July 14, 2017. It was the evening, probably about 6:30, and my dad called, and he was just kind of quiet, and he said, "Kim, Nanette's dead." And I said, "What?" He said, "They killed her."
Friday, July 14th, 2017. St. Tammany Parish Fire and Rescue receive a 911 call reporting black smoke billowing from a house in a heavily wooded area in Lacombe, Louisiana. The house engulfed in flames belongs to District 12 Fire Chief Steve Krennel.
That day was no different than any other day.
She got up, she laid his clothes out, which she did every day. She made him a peanut butter sandwich for a mid-morning snack. She took her dog in her arms and followed him out to his car.
She would stand there, I'd roll the window down, the dog would put his front paws on the window, and I'd say, "See you later, poo-poo head."
He gets in the car and drives away. He then calls his mother to check on her.
I got off the phone with Mom. I had called Nanette and spoke to her the rest of the way to work.
So that was his last conversation with her. That would have all happened in the morning.
He jumps into his truck and he is just speeding as fast as he can go, which is about 17 miles away.
There was a dash camera in the chief's vehicle.
And you could see the fear in his eyes.
The two of them went through their gate onto the property, and you can see the house is already fully involved.
My adrenaline was going 100 times more than even on a regular call. So I was nervous. I was panicked. I was worried about, was she home?
The carport collapsed and the roof caved in, and he saw her vehicle parked there.
I did not feel that Nanette would have gone off jogging or wandering through the woods. She would have been in her vehicle.
I'll never forget when he described those firefighter colleagues walking over to him.
As soon as they got there, I knew that what they were fixing to tell me. They advised me that they had located her body.
Nanette Krennel's body was found in the master bathroom.
The body was burned beyond recognition.
You could tell that it was a woman. The fire had altered all of her dental work. So this took quite a bit to identify her.
We had no clue what caused the fire. We had no clue of anything.
Initially, I think he thought that maybe there was an accidental fire that ignited somehow somewhere in the house, and she loves her pets so much
that she had gone back into the house realizing it was on fire.
That she was running around trying to chase her animals.
And maybe the smoke inhalation took over.
And perished from staying in there, from trying to gather up her babies.
In a case like this one,
You want to know why this young lady was not able to escape this fire.
Hey, this is Steve. Can you get a call as soon as you get this, please?
When Steve called me, he said Nan was killed in a house fire. She had been overcome by smoke.
As news of Nanette's death spread, friends and family members were convinced the fire wasn't accidental, that Nanette had been the victim of foul play.
Probably about 6:30, my dad called. He said, Kim, Nanette's dead. I hung up the phone and I just yelled, they effing killed her, and just broke down.
When you're married to a firefighter or fire chief for more than 20 years, you know there is no way she went back into that house to go get those pets.
In today's homes with smoke detection and smoke alarms, this would be a suspicious fire.
How does a grown woman, a healthy grown woman, not get out of a fire in the middle of the day? I don't understand.
I am a certified fire investigator. I was asked by several of the investigators if I could help them conduct this investigation.
The state fire marshal secures the scene overnight to preserve any evidence left in the ashes.
When I arrived the morning after the fire, the first thing I did was documented the scene by walking around, photographing the exterior.
Jones walks his canine through the remains of the Krennel property, and the dog alerts in 2 different locations.
She made alerts in the living room, she made alerts in the master bedroom.
Indicating the presence of an accelerant.
That smelled like gasoline.
The family came a few days after the fire, and they did go out to the scene.
The house was burned to the ground. Ashes covered everything.
We pulled up and I was immediately angry. The gate was open, nothing was secured.
I don't know what time they left that day, but they left the scene, and there was no security left on the scene. There was areas where it had not been gridded or cleaned up.
Jones says he recovered key pieces of evidence that authorities had failed to recover from the ashes, including
several weapons or firearms that were throughout the house, a DVR that was part of the recording system for this house, both cats, one in the master bedroom and one in the master closet.
One of the firemen came over to me and pointed out where they had found Nan's body. And I saw an area that was a little lighter in color. And he said that's where Nanette's body had been found.
Harley was right near her. It's like they took Nanette's remains and left the rest and didn't even try to look through it.
There was an AR-15 lying on the burnt bed.
They brought it up to the sheriff's office.
We reached out to the Louisiana State Fire Marshal's office and the St. Tammany Parish Sheriff's Department. They didn't address the family's specific allegations, but released these statements.
You don't release the scene to anybody until you're done, unless you're not treating it as a homicide, in my experience. I've been a prosecutor for 15 years, and I have never heard of evidence being treated that way, because once it's released, your chain of custody for that evidence is gone.
As fire investigator Richard Jones and family members recover more and more potential evidence, the St. Tammany Sheriff's Office returns to the Krennel property.
They did go back in with warrants and re-secured the site, gridded it off, and began sifting all of the debris. But that did not happen in the immediate aftermath.
During that time, could evidence been removed or tampered with? Of course.
It's our understanding from sources that there were two sources of ignition. One in the living room by a DVR, where the information from the surveillance cameras would have gone, and also the other point being in the bedroom.
The investigators that were involved believed that somebody set this fire.
The sheriff's office detectives never directly said to me anything about suicide. The only concern I had with that is their collecting of evidence didn't appear that they were treating it as a homicide.
1 week after her death, as Nanette's family and friends gather for her funeral, a bombshell drops. A leaked copy of the St. Tammany coroner's report is published online.
We thought she just died in the fire.
As soon as the 4 o'clock news came on,
everybody's phone just started blowing up.
It was almost as if everyone was looking at each other like, you did this, you did this, who did this?
Just 1 week after a deadly blaze rips through the fire chief's home in Lacombe, Louisiana, taking the life of his wife, Nanette Krenel, and their 3 beloved pets, family and friends gather for Nanette's funeral.
It was at a memorial service for Nanette a week after her death. Unfortunately, a news release went out.
An explosive autopsy report that the St. Tammany Parish Coroner's Office has determined the manner and cause of Nanette Krenel's death is about to go public.
We found out just through a leaked story, a blog online.
The minute that Steve told me she had died in a house fire, I knew she had been murdered.
The gunshot wound is an unusual wound, entering on the right upper part of her head, and the bullet recovered down at the left upper back of her neck. What's important about this is the shot would have immediately incapacitated her. She would never have gained consciousness again.
Another important piece of information, there was no soot, no smoke inhalation in her lungs.
Well, the body burns from the outside in. So therefore, from the pattern on her body, it appears that she was lying on her back when the fire reached her. We were able to see even microscopically deep into her lungs, nothing that said she ever took a breath in the fire.
Which would rule out it being some kind of a set a fire, shoot yourself kind of scenario.
The spokesperson at the sheriff's office confirmed to me that there were 2 pistols found by Nanette Krenel's body.
I did not see much evidence of blood around her when she was lying on the floor. If she would have died in that spot, I would have expected to have seen more blood, a lot of blood.
She was shot kind of towards the back of the head.
Now, we also know, and were confirmed by the investigators, that the bullet went in through her right skull, and it was lodged into the left of her brain.
The bullet had caught like in her hair and collar, so they had the bullet.
And we know that the bullet inside matches the caliber of the guns next to her, which means one of those 2 pistols is potentially her murder weapon.
But because the bullet and guns recovered from the scene were so badly damaged in the fire, investigators were not able to determine if the bullet was fired from one of the guns near her body.
Time of death determination for the case of Nan Krenel is very difficult. She could have died the night before, hours before the fire, or she could have died just shortly before the fire was started.
It was complete shock. I truly in my heart believed for the entire week that she was running around trying to chase her animals. The minute I found out that she had been shot, it didn't matter to me how the fire started. I immediately went straight to the sheriff's office to find out what was going on. That's when questioning started, and it began the process of a true investigation.
One of the many reasons why this case is so fascinating, full of mystery, is you have a murder scene with a massive security system.
They had 9 surveillance cameras.
Nanette would not let a stranger into the house. If somebody were to come to the door or something like that, she would have been able to see them on the cameras in the house.
And just coincidentally, the camera at the gate stopped working the day before the fire.
The only camera that would be intermittent was one up at the gate, and it didn't go to the house. It was an internet-based camera.
It had gone off the day before. It had to be manually reset, and that wasn't done.
Investigators are hopeful the badly damaged DVR recovered by fire investigator Richard Jones might show them who may have entered and exited the Krennel house in the moments before it went up in flames.
It's just a metal shell left.
The DVR was completely melted, destroyed. No information could be collected from it.
That implies that whoever set the fires knew where the surveillance system was located.
I mean, I find that highly suspicious. I think that's obviously intentional. Setting that on fire and attempting to destroy all of that evidence.
This fire was set by somebody that knew how to set fires. This was not a stranger.
It just seems sort of personal. It doesn't seem like the sort of thing that somebody would just happen by and get into a highly fortified or remote location to kill somebody and then set their house on fire.
I can't put in a scenario that she would have opened the door unless she would have known somebody.
Family members and close friends are convinced Nanette knew her killer.
As time grew closer towards July of 2017, her concerns increased substantially.
In text messages and emails to her family, Nanette told family members she had received written threats that terrified her.
He wrote that he was going to rape her,
shoot her in the head,
supposedly burn their house down.
And even more shocking secrets are about to be uncovered from the ashes.
I had no idea that there might have been an affair going on.
One week after the wife of a local fire chief dies in a raging house fire, a report leaks that the St. Tammany Parish Coroner's Office plans to rule Nanette Krennel's death a homicide after her autopsy reveals she died from a gunshot wound to the head. Now all eyes are on Nanette's husband, the St. Tammany Parish Fire Chief, Steve Krennel.
I was no longer a victim at all. It was suspect.
Including uncomfortable questions about a relationship Steve Krennel was having outside his marriage.
I told him the truth on everything. I had had an affair. I was not proud of it. Nanette was aware of it.
So that's a flag for investigators.
It was a very uncomfortable time in our marriage, but I did it. I never once tried to deny it. There were good days and there were bad days, but there was never a point that we sat down and had any kind of a conversation that it was going to end.
If you ask Nanette's best friend or her family, they'll have a dramatically different story.
She had mentioned divorce to my dad on the phone.
Friends and family wonder if Nanette had been shot prior to the house fire. Was it possible she could have been murdered the night before the Krennel house burned to the ground?
We've heard a lot of different theories how Nanette's murder might have gone. The one that makes the most sense to me with the situation between Steve and Nanette seems like maybe they had gotten to a disagreement and things escalated from there.
Lori Rando says the last time she spoke to Nanette was on Facebook late on Thursday, the night before the fire.
It was a normal conversation. It kind of went probably until 10:30, going on 11 o'clock at night. Anytime we finished a conversation with each other, it was, I love you more.
But this conversation was different.
it just stopped. I had asked her something, she didn't answer. I knew something wasn't right.
There's some thought on the part of Nanette's friends that perhaps the time frame is different, that perhaps she'd been killed earlier. If you could change the time frame, then that changes questions of alibis.
But police believe Nanette was alive on the morning of July 14, 2017. After walking her husband to his truck, police say they obtained surveillance video of Nanette at a local McDonald's early Friday morning.
She drove in her red Mercedes SUV, which is a fairly distinctive-looking vehicle, I would think, with her little dog, Harley, drove to the McDonald's on North Shore Boulevard, got a breakfast sandwich.
Information the St. Tammany Sheriff described in this phone call, recorded by Nanette's family.
This is a video that we got from the McDonald's the morning of the incident, and it has been identified as Nan's vehicle.
I know that Stephen Krennel has watched that video.
He saw and believed as well that was Nan in the drive-up making her order.
After 22 years of marriage, he knows his wife's mannerisms, the articles of clothing she wore that morning, and that the dog, Harley, was in the car with her that day. I know that there are some people that believe that it's not her, or what if there's someone wearing a wig, or, what if it's someone posing as her.
We saw the video about 2 years later, and it was so vague, you couldn't tell who was in the car.
But police say Nanette's phone records prove that Nanette was driving the car that morning.
The triangulation of her phone matches exactly from the FBI, exactly from the McDonald's back to the house.
Police say she arrived home around 9:11 a.m., and at 10:03, a call was made from her phone to Kmart to refill a prescription.
To clear up the speculation on whether that was indeed Nanette Krennel on that security video at McDonald's, a source has confirmed to me that they were able to identify what she ate and ordered that day at McDonald's, and the contents of it was found in her stomach.
After 3 autopsies were conducted, one at the family's request, the St. Tammany Parish coroner officially confirms Nanette Krennel's death was ruled a homicide.
That same day, the sheriff's office put out a news release saying that they did not necessarily agree with the conclusions of the coroner's office. So that was, puzzling.
The sheriff's office detectives never directly said to me anything about suicide. The only concern I had with that is their collecting of evidence didn't appear that they were treating it as a homicide.
I don't believe Nanette committed suicide, and I cannot imagine any circumstances under which Nan would have killed her pets.
The investigation into Nanette's death is about to take another bizarre twist.
Sheriff Smith said at a news conference the day after the homicide was revealed that they had cleared Steve as a suspect.
I was dumbfounded when the sheriff cleared Steve.
It seemed pretty early in the process to be eliminating people, and to do so in a public way, I would say that's highly unusual.
You never clear any suspects prior to the conclusion of the case. And I had worked with police myself, and I know that was true.
With Nanette's husband no longer considered a suspect in his wife's murder.
You took a polygraph.
I did.
And the results?
They told me I passed without any issues.
Suspicion now turns towards someone else within her family.
He had told her he would rape her, shoot her in the head, and burn her. And she believed him. That really frightened her.
Retired preschool teacher Nanette Krennel and wife of Fire Chief Steve Krennel is found with a bullet wound in her skull after her body is burned in a house fire. Her family says Nanette fortified her home with security cameras and never left without a gun because she feared her life was in danger. And family members say they have the texts and emails to prove it.
According to what family members have told us, Nanette was very fearful, specifically of her brother-in-law, Brian Krenel, who has a criminal past.
A criminal record that includes 15 convictions for crimes ranging from driving while intoxicated to assault and battery.
Her and her brother-in-law, Brian, did not get along at all.
There was a letter Brian wrote to both Steve and Nan. He threatened them.
Nanette said in text to me that he told her, he wrote that he was going to rape her, kill her, burn the house down, and be on the news.
He focused his anger on Nanette. That was the reason that the guns and the cameras were put into place, was to protect them from Brian.
Unfortunately, he was released early due to overcrowding, and that really scared Nanette, and she called the prison and asked them to please not release him.
Nanette became very fearful when she got that letter, and then when she found out he was going to get out of prison in October 2016, more fearful.
Released from prison, Brian Krenel wore a GPS monitoring ankle bracelet that was supposed to alert the police if he crossed a geofence that surrounded the Krenel property.
When Brian was getting out, she wanted cameras to know, was he coming on the property? And she thought he had an ankle monitor on when he got out. And she was told that that had GPS on it, and then he could not come within so many feet of their property.
But in point of fact, they found out afterwards that
the ankle bracelet had never been turned on. How does that happen? There were things happening to her that scared her.
At one point, they said that there was reportedly a knife and a cigarette butt found on the property that she couldn't explain.
She never once told me that he threatened her. There's never been a conversation whatsoever about that, and I'm not aware of it at all as a factual thing.
Melissa McCarty interviewed Brian Krenel on Crime Watch Daily.
I said, were you shocked when they were looking at you as a suspect or a person of interest? And he said, it didn't really bother me. I didn't have anything to worry about. I loved her. She was like a sister that I didn't have.
I'm still very interested in Brian, for sure.
I do know my brother was a person of interest. According to the sheriff's office, that they let me know that clearly, that they were able to have video evidence of where he was.
And suspicions of him. Brian lives with Steve's mother, and that entire day, Brian is on video surveillance at the house.
on the issue of his brother Brian, he also had an alibi. The timestamp on the video matches a clock on the wall.
I believe they asked him to take a polygraph test, and he did, and they told me he passed.
So based on those things, they don't really have a suspect. Didn't have one then, don't have one now.
As family members questioned the investigation into Nanette's murder,
I have absolutely no confidence in the sheriff solving the crime.
An anonymous source emails the family with inside information about the investigation.
I did get a couple of emails. Some of it wasn't complimentary to some people at the sheriff's office.
And more than 2 years after Nanette's brutal murder, Sheriff Randy Smith makes his first arrest. Two years after Nanette Krenel was violently murdered by a gunshot to the head and her body and house burned down, the St. Tammany Parish Sheriff's Office is about to make their first arrest in connection to the case.
Jerry Rogers, who formerly worked years ago for the sheriff's office, it came to light that he had been communicating with some of the out-of-town family members of Nanette anonymously, but he had reached out to them expressing concerns that the investigation was not being handled very well.
Jerry reached out to the family anonymously because he feared retaliation from the St. Tammany Parish Sheriff's Office.
Mr. Rogers did not say anything that we didn't already know.
He had some opinions based on his experience as a former St. Tammany Parish Sheriff's deputy, and he wanted to share those with the family.
I care about what's going on, and your family deserves closure, and here's just some of the things that I think.
Jerry Rogers, a federal agent, was arrested for criminal defamation after criticizing the St. Tammany Parish Sheriff's Office in emails to the family of Nanette Krenel. But the Louisiana Attorney General declined to prosecute him, saying the St. Tammany Parish Sheriff's Office arrested him using an unconstitutional law.
Maybe if the sheriff's office had put the same energy into investigating the Nanette Krentel homicide as they did to investigating anonymous critics, maybe we wouldn't be here today.
Everybody's a suspect in this case.
In October, our district attorney subpoenaed all of the records of the Krentel case from the sheriff's office. It's a very unusual move. Investigating crimes is not something that's a big part of what the DA does.
I felt that the Krentel family needed to have closure, and they needed to have a fresh pair of eyes. Look at this.
I do believe it was something random. I do believe it was random.
I do believe the crime was a well thought out, planned, organized murder.
I think at this point, the only way this case will be solved and this mystery comes to an end is if someone comes forward.
We won't ever find out because of evidence. That's a fact.
Someone out there knows what happened, and they need to come forward.
There's a lot of people that are depending on this answer.
I would beg anyone that has information that would be helpful with the investigation to contact the DA's office. It can be done discreetly.
If you have any information regarding this, please email krentel@22da.com.
We're hopeful that we're going to be able to resolve this case and find the murderer or murderers and bring closure to the Krentel family.
I know people are scared. They've told us they're scared.
This murder or murderers are still on the loose. So until we identify those individuals and bring them to justice, all of us are in danger.
Getting some information out to you guys before we release any of this to the media or to the public. We wanted to give you an update where we're at and where we're going.
Yeah, but why wouldn't that have been done a year ago? You know what I'm saying? Those cards didn't disappear today. I mean, why wouldn't we have checked those cards out within the last year?
人，我操！哎，真不，我说这不是一个级别的，那个，哎，这200不算贵，比北京那便宜。哎，我跟北京跳那个，就刚才你们看那视频，那是一个小湖，你知道吧？那个小湖，你给人感觉吧，反正也挺吓人。我操，这他妈面对整个大海，从那往下跳，远处，哎呦，我操，那质空感，妈吓死个人呀！吓死个人呀！这动漫体验是什么？ 玩3D 啊！哦，这是玩3D 的，穿越瞬间发生，没。 都喝的嘛，来块喝的。这屋子这有个风。
下边来杯奶茶吧。
哎呦，喝别的，喝别的。我看。不吃了，我这美食肚子，我得留晚上吃，我得留晚上看电用。我觉得咱不能吃这个，是不是？咱们来到要不就吃外头的，不能把肚子浪费在这上。王哥游泳也起码跳，哎，我跳过，还跳过。火箭蹦迪这边啊，火箭蹦迪我也不蹦。上回那蹦是祥云哥刷了那个6个超火，4个超火，不是几个也忘了，反正是3、4个大超火我才上去的，那玩的命了那是。现在不跳了，现在他妈是要命的，要命啊！那会儿年轻还行，那会儿我才39岁，现在都40了，不行了。那会儿我30多岁还能干这事儿，现在40多了干不了这事儿了。这已经被废弃了，看来都没人用了。还真是100万热度。你看那岛也没多大，感觉确实没多大，都是个人工岛。那就是个人工岛，就是个人工岛。啊，这上面就是游乐是他呀弄了一个人工岛，然后呢就拿一些人为玩的玩意儿建造下来了，不是什么自然风景区，这是一个人工岛，应该是啊，人建了一个人工岛，没有什么这小孩玩的。一小游乐场，主要就是这个索道。我跟你说，就是这索道赚钱，这基本我都没人玩，基本是没人玩。